Hi, everybody, and welcome to our fourth ABA in Your Home webcast. My name is Mark Pankow, and I'm joined behind the scenes with my colleague, Michael O'Riordan. Mike and I have been behavior consultants for the Ottawa Catholic School Board, supporting students, teachers, families, working with agencies for almost 30 years. And we have to tell you, we've never experienced anything quite like this before. So kudos to you for taking the time during these unprecedented and challenging days to tune in. We hope you'll find something of interest in the next 10 minutes. If you've been following along, you know this is in fact part 4 of a 5-part series. Earlier you had a chance to hear our colleague Sarah speak about holding the key, and that was about using your child's favorite items as a way to motivate him or her and set them up for success, create some motivation, essentially being the giver of good things. You also had a chance to hear Jen and Marilyn speak the following week on picking what fits, finding, identifying goals, and making sure they work for your family in the here and now. Then last week, you had an opportunity to hear from Becky and John about scheduling for success. And scheduling for success, that can be as simple as first then. Setting up schedules that are naturally occurring. So what we want to do and what we hope to do over the next number of minutes is set the stage for success and take a look at these goals that you've identified and how do we go about breaking them down into smaller pieces and making sure we're prepared and ready to support the goals that we've set. So have you ever sat back and actually thought about all the little things that have to be done to create an experience when you're watching something on stage, for example? Maybe it's watching our kids at a school play or assembly. It's been on our calendars for weeks, and as the day finally arrives, if you're anything like me, you're holding your breath the entire time. You just hope everything goes okay. We trust the teachers have set the stage for success as well, that all the rehearsals, all the preparations will come together piece by piece, and then we can hopefully breathe a sigh of relief. There's so much planning to pull it off, from the background set to all the sequence, and it's a planning and steps that we want to talk about. Now, you might wonder from the slide, what does a recipe or baking or cooking have to do with setting the stage for success? Well, it's about how we prepare and follow the steps. A good recipe works because it tells us all the ingredients we need, the materials, cutleries we need in advance, the order that we do things in, and how we ultimately cook or bake it. So it's no coincidence that if we follow the steps closely, we have all the ingredients, things usually turn out, even if it takes a little time. We have to remember as well, we're usually highly motivated. If we're choosing to bake or cook something, we likely are looking forward to eating it for the reward. So if we choose a schedule that works, we select a good time, we get everything we need together, and we follow the steps, we know that the outcome will be something we appreciate when we sit down at the table. So when it comes down to breaking things into steps, it's important to start where your child is. Sequencing is everything. So start with the skill that they have. The technical name for some of what we're doing is called a task analysis. And we're really just scratching the surface by talking about the preparing and planning steps. But I have to tell you, it is a great teaching tool for all students of all levels of ability. And again, sequencing is everything. You might want to teach a person to learn to wash their hands independently, but they can only turn on the tap at this point. That's okay. We can build on that. And the next step for us would be to try to perform the skill or the behavior ourselves, or watch someone else who can do the whole thing perform it. And then from that, write down the steps so that we understand each discrete step. And then we've got to decide, how will we teach hand washing? Will you walk your child through it, talk them through it? Will you use visual supports? Will we model and show them first? I used hand washing as an example, but you can take a look at teaching anything from shooting a basketball to interrupting the right way. And of course, key in that is what we took from Sarah's talk on finding what motivates a child. Because while we want to reinforce and praise every step in the chain, we also want to provide a significant reward at the end of the day, something highly motivating. Also gives us a chance to use scheduling that Becky spoke of, the first then. First you're going to wash your hands, and then you get some iPad time. Or for some of you who might be in my age category, you might remember Grandma's Law. If you eat your peas, you get to eat your dessert. So before we move on, let's just consider again, let's not bite off more than we can chew. These are unprecedented times. Do what you can do, and be satisfied that that is enough. Now, how many times have you heard the saying, first we crawl, then we walk, then we run, or every journey begins with the first step? Think of the manuals that we read in order to put things together. I mean, it's scary, but think IKEA. One of the best ways to look at those jobs, those large jobs, is by thinking of it as a chain. Each link builds on the one before it. Again, it's crawl, walk, run. We can get back to the starting line by first choosing a skill to work on. We want to write down the steps that are involved. We want to customize the steps. We want to group the steps that in a way that's relevant to our child. We want to choose a way to teach. We want to praise every step. And we want to finish with a bang, something highly motivating. So let's take a quick look at a variety of everyday activities that can be broken down into steps. And I should have, again, I just want to reemphasize, by breaking things into steps, it impacts how we communicate, what we communicate. And by focusing on steps of a task, we're much less likely to overwhelm someone, our children who might otherwise just run away, cover their ears, or just plain refuse or have a tantrum. Here is a step-by-step walking the dog procedure. It was actually put together by Mike with his daughter's help to prepare for their younger neighbor who's walking their dog. So a great illustration of something that is a day-to-day activity broken down into steps. Hand washing, and again, you can pause these slides at any time, but this is just an example of an early learner and an advanced learner in the steps of hand washing. And grilled cheese, anybody? You know, apart from the sequence that you see, what I want to point out is how a quick review of the steps will make sure that you have everything you need and are prepared for the job ahead. You know, the steps, as they say, are butter on the bread. Actually, it's icing on the cake, but that's another slide for another day. Sorry, that was really cheesy, at least according to one of my colleagues. When we're trying our best to keep kids busy and engaged at home during this pandemic, we can take things on like we would a recipe. There are many ingredients and steps. We want to first create motivation. We want to follow our kids' interests. We only want to bite off what we can chew. We want to schedule or set aside time and make both the everyday and special activities predictable, doable, and something that our kids can look forward to. So thank you. Think in terms of steps. Identify your goals. Break them down. I wish you well. Stay well. Next week, you'll have an opportunity to hear behavior analyst Robin Bertrand putting it all together for us, and she'll weave us through from the first webinar talk to the final. Until then, I wish you well. Thank you for tuning in.